Welcome back and welcome to the overnight session of From Day One. Art Bell's with us with the precursor Midnight to the Desert Dark Matter tonight with Michael and Nicole Sebastian talking about dream intrusions and night terrors. So do you want to take a ride? From the Kingdom and I, let's begin as we march through Dominion.
Want to take a ride? From the high desert and the great American Southwest, exclusively on Sirius XM Radio, this is Dark Matter with your host, Art Bell. Now, here's Art.
Hi, Dark Riders. See, I didn't interrupt him this time. How you doing? Welcome to Extraterrestrial Radio. I am Art Bell, and it is my pleasure to be here. We've got a few things to take care of, and then we're going to have dreams tonight. We're going to be talking about dreams. Not just any dreams, but night terrors. Night terrors. Things that may come to you in your dream that you don't want to come to you. So, this is going to be a very, very interesting program. I have never had night terrors. So this is actually one time that I'm going to be able to talk about something that I have not personally experienced. It should be very interesting. A couple of quick notes for you. One is, after tomorrow night's show, I'm going to have an announcement of some significance for the end of the program. And in poker parlance, I will simply say we are all in. And we'll see how that comes out. A mystery wrapped in an enigma. I like that, a mystery wrapped in a enigma. It's hard to say 3 times quickly, even once apparently. We are having our ghost picture judging. Therefore, you should go to artbell.com and judge. Look at the photographs, declare what you think to be the winner, and we are going to be giving away tomorrow night a Sirius XM radio and a 1-year subscription to Sirius XM. That's pretty hot stuff. So if you have submitted a ghost picture, then cross your fingers, knock on pressed wood or whatever you can find, and maybe you'll be the winner tomorrow night. Ghost stories, last chance. I will look for ghost stories sent to me, artbell at artbell.com. If you're going to do that, just give me a short summary and a phone number, and maybe on Spooky Matter tomorrow night, we will call you. All right, looking briefly at the news, never all that pleasant. Another mistress of a former Utah doctor accused of killing his wife testified Wednesday that he had once described how he could induce a heart attack in someone and said it would appear to be natural. A New York bus driver saved a woman from jumping off a bridge. Good. Hailed as a hero for preventing a woman from jumping off a Buffalo Highway bridge. 6 people shot dead in South Carolina in a domestic dispute. Seems like we used to be able to settle them more easily, or at the worst, police come. But now, a South Carolina man in custody, a one-time girlfriend apparently broke into her parents' home, fatally shot the woman. He did. Her parents, 2 children, according to the sheriff. Then the man dispatched himself, saving the state problem. Well, here's one for the books. Dark matter comes up empty so far. Nearly a mile underground in an abandoned gold mine, one of the most important quests in physics has thus far come up empty in search for the elusive substance known as dark matter. I have a comment I could make here, but I will refrain. The Japanese Prime Minister, his government, this really is interesting. Somebody sent me a note about this yesterday as we were discussing Fukushima. The Japanese government is planning a State Secrets Act. This is very interesting. Critics say it could curtail public access to information on a whole wide range of issues, including tensions with China and, of course, Fukushima. So, as time goes on, if this passes, It'll all be covered by the Official Secrets Act in Japan. The new law would dramatically expand the definition of official secrets. In other words, anything they don't want known. And journalists convicted under it could be jailed for up to 5 years. Whew. So in other words, if number 4 over there begins to go, and some journalist wants to report it, he's going to go to jail for 5 years for doing so. Now, you might keep that in mind. That's incredible. Simply incredible. I thought we helped the Japanese with our constitution, their constitution modeled after ours. But then again, we haven't treated ours so well either, have we? Defending President Obama's much-aligned healthcare overhaul in Congress, his top health official was confronted Wednesday with, oh, this is so sad, with a government memo raising new security concerns about the trouble-prone, boy, that's kind, website that consumers are trying to use to enroll. The document obtained by the AP shows that administration officials at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services were concerned that a lack of testing posed a potentially high security risk. For healthcare.gov website serving 36 states, it was granted only a temporary security certificate so it could even operate. You know, I shouldn't laugh. If you're feeling a little wired, exhausted, emotional, on edge, it may be our sun. Our sun has released 3, now 4 actually, X-class solar flares since Friday. October, fittingly, has been one of the most active solar months in years, with, get this, 22 N-class flares thus far. For those wondering what's the difference between classes, some flares, are graded sort of backwards. The least powerful is an A, then comes B, then comes C, then comes M, or the most powerful X class, each class 10 times more powerful than the previous class. So when you get an X-class flare, the sun is indeed raging in the night. Actually, there is something above an X. It's called a mega flare, but that may not be official. And then there's this. I'm hearing a lot about it, so I thought I would pass it on to you. Nationwide electric power failure is realistically dramatized in a coming National Geographic television docudrama. But it is also being televised, which the whole country, and it will be synchronized to immediately precede a U.S. government national power blackout drill. Now, I have no idea what we're going to do. Are they going to turn off power for everybody? Anyway, this planned coincidence shows that the National Geographic television is emotionally amplifying an apocalyptic government prophecy by Janet Napolitano, Director of Homeland Security, who said that, and this is an apparent quote, a massive cyber attack and a natural disaster, the likes of which never have been seen before, are coming, end quote. That's from ABC News. Let me read that again. A massive cyber attack and a natural disaster, the likes of which have never been seen before, are coming. That's here, it's a quote from ABC News. Something indeed to think about, wouldn't you say? So I wonder if they're going to turn off the power, or if you're all supposed to volunteer and run out and throw the master switch and cut your own power off and suffer for a while. In other words, be a volunteer. Coming up in a moment, featured on A&E, DH1, the Reverend Dr. Nicole and the Reverend Dr. Michael Sebastian, M.A., ABD, a.k.a. the Dream Team, are co-founders of the Dream Team, celebrity life coaching, creators of the Trust Yourself system and the Trust Yourself therapy. As authors of 4 books, folks, celebrity life coaches, dream experts, addictions therapists, and behavioral sociologists, they deliver wise counsel using traditional methods coupled with unique tools of dream, sound, synchronicity, intuition, and quantum physics for guidance and direction. So coming up in just a few moments, we're going to talk with the Dream Team about, well, dreams, folks. Coming right up. I'm Art Bell.
Every night I hope
I'd like to welcome Nicole and Michael to the program. They are known as the Dream Team. Hi.
Hi. Hey, Art. How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Good to hear you both. Where are you, as a matter of curiosity?
At present, we're in Detroit, Motor City.
Detroit. Wow. Okay. I bet it's cold up there.
A little bit, like 35.
It's going to be an early winter, it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a cold winter. All right. Before we get started in what's going to be scary, I want to ask a question. First of all, I've never had a nightmare or don't want one. Thank you. I've always worried about a number of things that I will ask you about in the course of the show. The only dream that I have had that I really hate, and I'm thinking maybe you can tell me, can you tell me how not to have a dream that I don't like?
Yes.
Oh, how cool is that? All right, well, here it comes. The dream that I don't like, in other words, when I go to sleep at night, I want to experience a little slice of death, you know. I want to go to sleep and then wake up the next morning and look out and see that it's light and another day has arrived, and lo and behold, I'm here. That's how I want to sleep. However, every now and then I'll go to sleep and I'll have a dream in which I am trying desperately to achieve some goal, whatever it is, whether it's related probably to radio, because, you know, I'm in radio. And I'm working. Oh, my God, I'm working all the way through this dream. And by the time the dream is over and I wake up, I am dead tired because I've been striving. I've been trying to get whatever it is accomplished. And I'm pooped because I worked all night long. How do I stop it?
Art, here, we'll start here. We'll back up a little bit. And then
okay.
Some techniques for changing that dream. And the reason that you're so tired when you wake up in the morning is that you have actually been working all night long in your dream, because when we sleep, we dream, and when we dream, we actually leave the body in energy form. We're all energy. We know that. And we go to another dimension. And what we experience there is what we call the dream when we wake up, but it's actually a travel log of what went on in a different state of consciousness. So consequently, because you're in radio, because that is your career and your job, you work all night long in that other area to download what's coming into your consciousness in the daytime. So you do double duty, actually.
Okay, you're exactly right. But now the important part. How do I stop it?
Aha. Well, I would suggest, Art, that you merely hew, which is a phenomenal technique we'll share with your listeners.
I'm sorry, the technique name again?
Hew, H-U.
That I hew?
Yep, I'd recommend that you hew before you go to bed.
Okay.
And by doing that, you'll provide clarity.
I try to hew before I go to bed. If not, I have to get up in the middle of the night and hew maybe once or twice.
There you go.
Come on, explain what hew is.
All right. Hew is a toning technique, and it's based on physics and vibration and resonance. And let me give you a demo. Simply put, you inhale, and on the exhale, you hew.
I can't hit that tone.
Let me tell you, your own pitch is perfect, Art. So however it comes out, that's just meant for you. And hew is actually an ancient, sacred, universal name for God. And it's where the word human comes from. The word human actually means God-man, God within man. And in our research of the word, we found the word hew in 13 different world religions and their sacred books, from Christianity all the way to Zoroastrianism.
Well, don't think I won't try it, because I will, and it better work. I'm coming after you.
I promise. It stops nightmares instantaneously. It stops anxiety and insomnia. We call it one magic word.
Okay, this is none of those terrible things. This is just work.
Feverishly.
Yes, absolutely. There's enough of that during the day. At night, I want my little slice of death.
You want to tune out, right?
Well, I had to bring that. I had to know. I'm going to try it. I'm absolutely going to try it. All right. All right, now, down to biz. Some of this is going to be really scary stuff. And look, I know that what we're going to talk about affects a lot of people. Thank God not me, but a lot of people. So what is a night terror specifically, and where do they come from?
Night terror could probably best be described as a nightmare on steroids. And it involves, actually, physiologically, you have an increased heart rate, increased adrenaline flow, and you're experiencing inwardly some extremely negative impressions and visualizations and things that we call a night terror. And you wake up in a cold sweat. Most people, when they experience a night terror, are afraid to go back to sleep. They're common in certain populations, veterans with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They'll have a flashback of being shot, being in combat, all the fear and anxiety that goes along with that. Children also, believe it or not, children under 5 and under the age of 5, experience night terrors quite a bit.
All right. Do you differentiate between a night terror and just a bad dream, or a scary dream, or are they all one and the same? A nightmare. In other words, any difference between a night terror and a nightmare?
Yeah, I'd put them on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's quantify it. And we all have nightmares. Who hasn't had a nightmare? And it could be as simple as, having a blow up with your boss, and you wake up thinking, oh my God, I'm glad that was a dream. But a night terror is something that we're actually almost afraid to go back to sleep because it was so traumatic. So a nightmare might be a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. A night terror is a 10.
A 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any idea what causes a night terror? Something so dramatically, maybe it's like sun flares 10 times worse as you go up the scale. So that would make a night terror really awful, horrible. Mm-hmm. Any idea what causes them?
Actually, whatever is in our state of consciousness is what we experience inwardly and outwardly. So we are actually the creator of the night terror, unfortunately. But at the same time, because we are the creator of our world, we can correct that just like we can correct anything else. So we are fully responsible due to our consciousness level. But at the same time, if we interpret and decode the message contained within the night terror, then it stops as long as we take appropriate action. Because whenever we have a dream, a nightmare, or a night terror, there is a message for us personally about taking some sort of action in our daily life.
Really?
Yeah. And once we do, boom, it goes away.
And night terrors are usually, Art, they're related to an event of some sort. For example, veterans with PTSD that have been in some dark place in combat, and they bring that back in their consciousness. In many cases, it's people who have been traumatized one way or another, and they go to an extremely dark place. And where they actually go is an interesting speculation also, but we have found that it involves, believe it or not, travel in other dimensions, and we get off into a dark area. So what we get from the night terror when we wake up is really a travel log of where we've been, someplace extremely dark and threatening.
All right, well, a moment ago, it was said that night terrors come from within ourselves, correct?
Correct.
And yet, I know that as we continue the interview, you're going to be talking about intrusions by others into dreams. We're going to even be talking about the possibility of death during a dream. We're going to be talking about entities. So if we're going to be talking about those things, how can you be sure that night terrors always come from within?
Well, because even if something, let's say there's an intrusion, a psychic intrusion, dream intrusion type of thing, we're still fully responsible because we allowed it to occur by remaining open and allowing something to enter our state of consciousness. Wow. So it goes responsible once again. But there's techniques. There's techniques that can prevent this, that can protect us, and so we don't have to experience such negativity. And we'll get into all.
Yes, okay, let's talk a little about children under 5. My daughter is now 6, and she's had some pretty bad dreams, but not what I would describe as night terrors. Is it particularly common for children under 5 to have these?
Absolutely, and there's a valid reason why. And children under the age of 5 remember and recall their past lives. And often, when a child under the age of 5 is having a nightmare or a night terror, the child is recalling an actual past life experience.
Wow.
And up until the age of 5, then the veil gets pulled. They enter into socialization. They typically start school at that age.
You are so right. I've watched it in my own daughter, and there is a demarcation point at about 5, somewhere between 5 and 6, where all that was disappears. Whether it's previous life, whatever, my daughter talked about some pretty eerie things, believe me, when she was very young, that just came out of nowhere. And I have always believed that perhaps a prior life was there, and that at about 5 and between 6, somewhere in there, there's a change that occurs, and I can see it in my daughter, and suddenly she's in the present, and the past, and I guess really the past, has kind of faded and disappeared, but she's all here now.
That's so true, Art. And I think it's when they hit that, like you said, your daughter's 6, when they hit that age of socialization, they start school, their focus changes from the inner to being spontaneous and the things that's going on within them to the outer, to being in school, being focused on habit, tradition, routine, learning, everything that they have to process on a daily basis. And consequently, I saw it in my daughter, and she can't come up with amazing things when she was 3. And as soon as she was 6 years old, it's as if she shifted gears and those things no longer existed.
Boy, are you right on the money. Right on the money. That's really fascinating. So here's a question for you. If we were to discover a feral human being, that is to say a human being perhaps in their 20s that had never been socialized at all, lived in the woods, there actually have been such people, would we find that the absolute lack of socialization had allowed them to remain able to remember what was?
Well, I would say no, and the reason being, it's an automatic response that happens to serve as a form of protection, so we can focus on this life and handle this life and not get bogged down with the events of the past. And I think it's an automatic response, just like we all have a dream sensor that jumbles the dream symbology, and that's within all of us. And so these things take over naturally. So I think, while they would still, not be socialized, the memories would still fade.
In other words, it's probably like an automatic mechanism that kicks in as a circuit breaker so we can focus on growth within this life or dimension as opposed to the things we know and have seen earlier on when we're 2, 3, and 4 from past lives that would really act as baggage and keep us from evolving here.
You're aware, I'm sure, both of you, that even as an adult, it has been said to be possible to hypnotize somebody and to regress them all the way back to their own birth and then occasionally into another life. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You believe it?
Yes. But I believe it's very messy, and I do not recommend it, because no matter how highly trained an individual is, they lack the full spectrum of spiritual knowledge to handle that appropriately. And what it's called is leaving tracks. And so when someone does hypnotize, an individual, they typically leave tracks, remnants of their own consciousness within another. And it's a disservice. So it's a real touchy area. I don't recommend it, but everyone has free will, Art.
Well, there are doctors who have taken people back and then asked specific questions about that person's prior life, received specific answers, checked them out, found them to be right. That's pretty strange stuff, no doubt about it. So, but it kind of goes along with what you were saying about somebody prior to the age of 5 having these memories.
Right.
And you know what, Art? You can actually program a dream. If someone wants to know what a past life may have been for themselves, or if they want to even know if reincarnation is valid, they can actually program a dream and ask the question, are past lives real? Is reincarnation valid? Before they go to sleep, and they will be given an answer of pure truth when they wake up. Additionally, they can ask and program a dream, show me one of my past lives, and they'll be given a dream, a past life dream. So people, we're all about trust yourself. We're all about taking the bull by the horns and handling things personally. Total self-responsibility and reliability, which breeds empowerment and full knowingness. And through certain techniques, that is the result. And that's the angle that Michael and I come from, because we like to empower people. We like, them to experience their fullness in every area, if you will.
Hey, I've got a friend, Dr. Albert Taylor. You probably know that name, don't you?
No, actually, I don't.
No, I'm not. No, not
okay.
no.
Well, he wrote a book called Soul Traveler.
Oh, okay.
And it is instruction on how to actually leave your body, go and visit the location of your choice, obtain, visual or audio proof of where you were, come back, and prove to yourself that you actually were in this place you flew to. Do you think that's possible, to leave your body and to actually go where you want?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Art, and then I'll throw it over to Michael. Every night when we sleep, we dream. When we dream, we leave the body in energy form. So actually, we experience that. All people experience that on a nightly basis. And even St. Paul spoke of it in the Bible. He spoke of dying daily. And that's exactly, one of the references there. You sleep, you dream, you leave the body in energy form, and you travel. And you can do it through meditation. You don't necessarily have to be asleep. And the Hue technique, Art, is one phenomenal technique that someone can do if they wish to experiment with soul travel.
And it's like Taylor says, and we can do that through contemplation or meditation on a daily basis. And like Nicole said, we do it every night when we dream, but you can sit down, clear your mind, and then you leave the body, which is really called soul travel, and we go places. Where do we go? We go to astral planes and other dimensions, and we bring those experiences back in full cognition, and then we have experience of where we've been. Then we know it, know it in the Gnostic sense, like to know, the Greek to know. So then we have that proof, because people can tell us about it. I can read it from a book, but I think, well, soul travel, does it exist? Is it real? Have I experienced it? Not unless I've actually done it. But once we do it, we go, now I see.
Okay. All right. Here is where you and Dr. Taylor are going to radically depart from each other. I was so fascinated with the concept of soul travel that I consistently asked Dr. Taylor, is there anything that can go wrong? In other words, can there be an intrusion? Can you get into trouble? Can you possibly even die? Can somebody get to you? All these questions I pummeled him with, and he said, he was like a nuclear expert I had on. Everything was okay. No, don't worry. At the very first sign of any problem whatsoever, you will snap right back to your body, and there is no danger of anything ever happening to you. And I always questioned that with him. Was I right to question that?
Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Art, intuitively, you knew the truth. It's always trust yourself. You are right on the money. And yes, we radically differ in that area. But by using the hue technique, because it's such a high vibration at a physics level, as well as a sacred name for God, by using the hue, it provides automatic protection and invocation of your own spiritual guides. So you're automatically protected.
But can you get into trouble when you are out of the body and traveling in other dimensions? Absolutely. There are things out there that can freeze the soul, literally, that are so dark. Just like here.
Wait a minute. Stop at that phrase right there. Freeze the soul.
Freeze the soul.
That's what I'm going to remember. Freeze the soul. All right. Explain that, please.
Well, the law that really it applies here is as above, so below, the first law of magic, and it's one of the first spiritual laws. In other words, whatever is valid here on this plane, the physical plane, really is valid on the internal planes also, the astral planes and the other planes where we travel when we soul travel. So consequently, if there are dark forces here, if there are criminals here, if there are people who would sometimes intend us harm, which there are also those things on the other planes. Many people I've run into who speak of this subject, they go, oh, it's all light and love on the other planes. Well, that's not really the case. That's not what we've found in our research in soul traveling. So we're here to, at least give your listeners some technique and some protection that they can take with them when they do their soul traveling.
All right. Now a question for you. As I listen to you, some of the things that you're saying, I'm pretty wise in the way of witchcraft. Now, some of the phrases that you've turned make me think witchcraft. And don't say anything yet. I've interviewed many a witch, many a really good witch, actually, Evelyn Peglini, people like that. And some of your phrases almost seem to touch on the edge of what I would hear from a practicing witch. Any comments?
None from me.
Any comments you want to admit?
I'll let Michael talk in a minute. It's nothing that I've even read up upon, Art. So
We don't know anything about it, huh?
Michael's done a lot of reading, Madame Blavatsky and this and that. So, so I'm going to give him the floor now.
Okay, Michael, it's all yours.
You go ahead, honey.
Yeah, go ahead, honey. You know what? Here's a good place to take a break. Let's take a break, and we'll be back with the dream team, Nicole and Michael. It's like stumbling into the middle of a dream. Hey, everybody, I'm Art Bell, and this is Dark Matter, Raging in the Night. Hi, everybody. We've got the dream team with us, Nicole and Michael, and I was giving them a little time to think about how they wanted to answer this. So, honey, you do a lot of reading. What do you have to say?
The forces of darkness. Actually, I'd go to a little bit of quantum probably, and that is at the quantum level, we know that really all there is packets of light and vibration when you get to 0 point. And that when we use those forces, there really is no darkness per se. Darkness is defined as lesser light. Even in a black hole, there is always light. But when we manipulate those forces for our own self-aggrandizement, to influence other people, for our benefit and not the whole, that really is defined as black magic. And there's a lot of that, as you well know, here that we deal with. And many people engage in it unintentionally. They don't even know what they're doing, but they're doing it through hatred, revenge, resentment, and those electromagnetic fields go out towards other people. And they begin to influence us, and they influence the consciousness of everyone because of you could say, quantum entanglement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a form of black magic that we have to deal with. All this.
You would say then that you have read a bit about witchcraft.
Yes.
I knew it. Okay, good. Excellent. I am fascinated by witchcraft, actually, and I don't know that I'm a believer, but I'm sure not a disbeliever, and I think these things can be manipulated. These things that you described can be done, and I respect the practitioners of it greatly, because I realize the consequences of failing to do so.
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
You.
You. All right, so where do you want to go? There's so many places we can go from here. I think dream intrusion is a great place to go. Is it possible, and I know you're going to say yes, that somebody can actually enter your dream? This is frightening. Really, it is frightening. Enter your dream and influence you, or even worse, somebody with evil intentions can harm you in the dream state. That's going to take a lot of explaining.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Dream intrusion. And it's real, it's easy to identify, actually, Art, when someone has a dream or a nightmare. Let's just call it a dream. Anyhow, when an individual has a dream and it's so out of character, that is how you know and identify dream intrusion. The dream you have is so out of character for you, your state of consciousness, your typical dreams. That's how you know. Maybe, you're in the dream and all of a sudden, you're having sex with your boss in the dream state. And it's something, that would never enter your mind. It has never entered your mind. And it's something so out of character. That's how you know dream intrusion has occurred.
Jeremy, I promise you, I've never thought of it. I'm sorry. So, if it's something so out of character for you, then it's indeed possible that it was an exterior influence that caused you to have that dream, or, put another way, do that thing in another dimension.
Yes.
That's fair?
Yes, that's fair to say. And because what occurs in dreams, just as to level the playing field here, what occurs in dreams occurs. It's a reality. The same as what we're talking right here is, you could say, is one reality. A certain type of consciousness. Dreams are another type of consciousness, but we're really there doing it. And the fact that maybe we're engaging in a behavior that's unusual for us is probably an influence from someone else who is either obsessing with us, focusing on us, has resentment, anger, whatever, toward us, and they're holding that attitude and dwelling on it. That attitude or electromagnetic field comes into our dreams, and at that point, it takes shape, and consequently, we experience it as something rather bizarre that we would rather not do. And that's how we identify usually dream intrusions. We're getting drugged into some activity or behavior that normally we would not engage in. And that other person is triggering it. They're actually in our dream.
But once again, I have to point out that we are fully responsible for allowing such an event to occur. And we must keep our auric field sealed tightly and practice divine love.
Oh, wait. How does one seal one's auric field?
Oh, by the hue. Just hue, and it handles it.
Boy, this hue really covers a lot of territory.
I promise, our one magic word for real. Yeah, it does the trick.
As a vibration, our auric field is an electromagnetic field, as you know. And we get, unfortunately, we get a weakened auric field, or we get holes punched in our auric field, having to do with the influences of our daily life. What would punch a hole in an auric field? Being too close to EMFs, electromagnetic fields. Sitting at a computer 8 hours a day, you can bet you have a weakened auric field sitting in front.
If that's true, then my auric field looks like a screen door. I mean, I'm a ham radio operator. I run high power equipment. I've got now I've got 3 computers in front of me, 2 computers in front, 1 to the side. I've got a little radio I talk to my friends on right there. In other words, I've got electromagnetic fields galore.
See, that's a sign or a synchronicity right there. We're talking to you right now, so you can plug the holes in that auric field of yours with the Hue technique.
Yeah, that's no prescription for you, Art. You know, 3 Hughes and call us in the morning.
3 Hughes and call us in the morning. That's great. So you really believe that electromagnetic fields influence and or drive holes into your aura?
Absolutely, and cause great disease. You know, the word disease actually stems from dis-ease, and once again, we're responsible, you know, for the things that occur in our world and our state of consciousness, and even narcotics, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, all those things influence, weaken the auric field, and
listen, I'd switch to the new e-cigarette. Is that a problem too?
That's a thought.
Well, it is a vapor. And
that's all it is, though. It's just a vapor.
I'd say it's the step-down version, Art. You know, we aim for progress, not perfection.
There you go. All right. I'll accept that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew smoking was bad on so many levels, but not this one. So actually, drugs, alcohol, smoking, all these things that affect you in a physical way also affect you in a
spiritual way.
Spiritual way, yes. I guess that's fair, sure.
It really hits your astral body, and your astral body is a little bit finer, more subtle body than the physical body, and it hits the astral body and causes it to be susceptible to, like Nicole said, then you're open to disease, you're open to people coming into your dreams, psychic attacks, that sort of thing that normally you would be protected against in your state of consciousness, because it's a violation of a spiritual law to enter someone else's state of consciousness without their approval. If someone invites you in, it's something else. But if you enter as a practitioner of some sort to influence people for your own benefit without their knowledge or approval, then you violated a spiritual law. Then you're a practitioner of black magic or witchcraft.
I really like what Nicole said. Dis-ease, disease, dis-ease. In other words, you're not at ease. You are at risk of disease.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Art. And it comes in so many ways. I mean, I'm also a nutrition counselor and a fitness trainer, so we work in the wellness field, as you know, and have for many years with clients and whatnot, and we've seen it over and over, and everything's really connected, as Michael keeps mentioning, quantum entanglement, and it's so true. You've got your physical body, you've got your astral body, and actually your causal and your mental and your soul. I mean, we really operate with 5 bodies simultaneously, you know, and all these bodies or states of consciousness, you know, become affected, and it's all it depends on how we live our life every day. You know, the things we put in our body nutritionally, the type of exercise we get, if we meditate or practice, you know, some sort of spiritual path, the types of thoughts that we hold, and the things that we hold in our heart. And intention has everything to do with it, on top of it.
Oh, I'm really big on intention. Believe me, I'm big on intention. And we need to talk about that. But the second part of this thing that we were talking about is, can someone with evil intentions harm you in the dream state? And I want to ask about that. Is it a witch? Is it somebody in the black arts who would do you this harm? In other words, do they have to be in that state to get to you? Somebody who is a witch or able to dabble in the black arts, is that what it's going to take? Or can somebody who is a simple soul traveler but happens to at the moment hate your guts able to do you harm in a dream state?
bingo, anybody, Joe Blow. They could just have an obsession with you, a fantasy about you. They could also loathe you, be in love with you. It doesn't matter. Just a strong thought and attitude about an individual can cause these things.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's what Michael was saying. They don't even realize it half the time. People don't even know they're practicing black magic art, and they just are incurring all kinds of karma.
Oh my. That's very disturbing. Particularly, I would add, for a public figure, because, there are potentially millions of people who know me, or know of me, or maybe even obsess about me. Not millions obsessing, but some, by percentage. So is a public figure, just out of curiosity, more... should a public figure be more concerned about this sort of thing than the average person? Because there's going to be more people thinking about you, perhaps ill will, I don't know.
Absolutely. It's pure math. More people are aware of you. Yeah. More people have an opinion about you. So it's pure math, and absolutely that is the case.
That's why public figures, if you'll just, you kind of notice in general, as a generalization, public figures have more... They pull more heat, is one way of saying it. That's because so many people are aware of them, are focusing on them with all kinds of negative thoughts, and they do impact, or like Nicole said, our different bodies. So the old saying, keep a low profile, keep it on the down low. There's a reason for that, because you don't want to pull that. You got the secret. Cue it up, Art.
Get your cue on.
So this could be done, you're suggesting, unintentionally. I mean, if somebody is just obsessing on you, and so they could, without even knowing it, cause you horrible stress in the night.
Yes.
And
that is really troubling. Yeah. It's just really troubling. I'm sorry.
But hey, I think it's better to know than not know. Wouldn't you agree?
Can I think about it?
Because now that you know, you can take...
Now that I know, how can I ever get it out of my head?
That's right. Ignorance is bliss at some point.
Boy. Okay. So all of that can happen, and it can happen unintentionally. And that brings us to an astral entity. Now, and to me, an astral entity sounds different than somebody unintentionally doing something to you, somebody soul traveling, or any of the rest of that. An astral entity, or the name, to me, would imply an entity that is not, or was not, or never has been a human being, and lives in another dimension and is not at all human. Would that be right or wrong?
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, it would be. It's yes and no. It would be right in the sense that in this case, talking about it, it would be an entity that does not have a physical body here, and we call that an astral entity. Although we all have astral bodies, when we're physically incarnated, we also have an astral body, and we need one. We all need one, or we couldn't be here. But at the same time, an astral entity is usually someone who was here before and died, or as we say, translated, because you just translate the energy. And they're living in the astral plane, and they're wanting to get back. And I think Nicole's got a good story for you.
Do I ever? Oh, my. And this is like present-oriented story I'm going to share with you and your listeners right now.
Well, it was the night before Halloween, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Additionally, what is an entity? Really, it's what people call a ghost. We don't use that word. We call it an entity. It's a more neutral term, and that's how we view it. But really, we're talking about ghosts, all the same. Here we go. Okay. So this was just 2 days ago in working with a client and her child and nightmares. And she said, before anything, I got to tell you, Nicole, my daughter is frightened. She sees this little girl in the house that looks like a zombie, that has on a dirty dress, messy hair. She wants to play with her. And my little girl is so terrified, who's 3.5, by the way, she will not sleep in her room. She will not go in her room. And she doesn't even want to go to sleep. So we're up all night now. And this is as of like the past 2 weeks. And so I immediately asked her the question. I said, have you done anything lately thinking was tarot cards, Ouija board, psychic, medium, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't say those things. I was thinking. And she says, oh my gosh. She says, on Friday, I had a medium over to the house for a reading. And this started on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. When children see, because we talked about this, 5 and under, they can see the other worlds, what they see, the imaginary playmates, they're actual and real and valid and authentic. Kids are not just making this stuff up. And I know this to be true, so I took this very seriously, which is why I asked the question, which came with the answer of, yeah, I had a medium over the other day. Voila, a medium, and Michael likes this one-liner, so I'm going to let him have it. Honey?
A medium is called a medium because they are a medium for entities to come in, also known as a channel. So when she came into the house, even unbeknownst to the medium, she brought with her this astral entity and ended up leaving it at the house with the little girl.
And so
this is kind of like getting on your computer and going to a website, and your browser says, well, we're trying to protect you from this website. We suggest you don't click. And so instead you just click, and then you get a message on the screen that says, to get your computer back, you'll have to send $700 to the following address.
Absolutely. Now, the good news are, okay, so we had that session it was like very early, in the morning. And so I gave her some techniques, and then her and her daughter went home. The techniques were this. Cue up the house. Literally, cue it up because it clears all the vibrations out. Secondly, do an invocation of anything that is not of the light must leave. By your command, it has to. Then I suggested wrapping herself, her daughter, and her home in white light. Lastly, I recommended wrapping herself, her daughter, and the home in reverse mirrors. Anything that comes...
Wait. Reverse mirrors. Yes, stop right there and explain reverse mirrors.
Reverse mirrors. If you wrap yourself in reverse mirrors, meaning the mirrors are surrounding you but facing outward, anything that comes to you bounces off the mirror and goes back to the sender.
Okay. So this is all done. This is all done mentally. I understand the concept of wrapping oneself in white light. The mirrors, I was actually picturing mirrors, but again, it's a mental thing that you draw, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the hue can be done silently, and it's just as effective. But yeah, outwardly, the hue, and then the 3 other techniques: the invocation, the white light, and the mirrors. And so, I suggested those techniques, invited her to try them, to use them. She went home, and that night, Art, the child was at home, sleeping in her own room, in her bed, alone, peacefully.
Once again, you two, some of what you're saying really has echoes of the craft. I'll be kind this time. We'll just say the craft. Yeah. But some of these protections, the mirrors, the white light, it all is, it's kind of part of the craft, right?
Well, we just see it as tools of Holy Spirit, to be honest with you. That's what we call it. That's how we refer to it. If it happens to correlate, then I guess those witches are pretty up on some good tools.
Oh, they are. They
know
are.
what I'm saying?
I do. Yep. Listen, one of the witches I talk to is a warrior, a spiritual warrior, and so she knows, believe me, about these things and much more things that can be done to people that would curl your hair. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know what I said to the client? I said, if you got to do these things, really, you can be your own psychic. You can be your own medium. You don't need John Edwards. If you use the Trust Yourself system, dream signs and intuition, coupled with a hue, you can have all the answers you want. You can see your future, et cetera, et cetera. And, she has her books and stuff, and so that's all cool. So she's got the techniques. I said, but if you got to do it, I said, go to McDonald's. Keep it out of the house, Keep it out of the house.
And,
I'm sorry. I really like a lot of what you've said, and it really actually makes sense to me. Even the mirrors, It absolutely makes sense. And frankly, it's part of witchcraft. In other words, being able to deflect or reflect back on somebody else. There's also a very, very big karmic issue here. If you intentionally try to harm somebody, I would bet you two would say, you know what? That kind of thing can boomerang on you, right?
Exactly. It's going to bounce. It's going to bounce right back on you. In other words, you're going to get the retribution, but you're going to pay for it, which is called karma. So the craft uses the same things that we're talking about because they're probably more aware, well, they are, than most people out there. Mm-hmm. And there's offensive and defensive tools at the spiritual level. When we go inward to those other dimensions where we are in jeopardy, there are things we can use to protect ourselves. Some of them were neutral defensive tools like the reverse mirrors, wrapping ourselves in white light, and the hue. And we're protected at that point. I mean, you can take it a step further, the craft would say, and you can take not to go too far down this road because I don't want to put it out there, but you can create a causation ball. A causation ball you've seen in the movies where it's like a ball of light and they got it in their hand. And some of the movies like with Thor and those different
mythological?
Yeah, mythological. And they get a ball of white light and they let it build. And then wherever you focus is where it shoots out to. And it hits the person pretty hard, enough to knock them into their last life. Well, at that point we pay for that
power.
For that power that we've just used, but at the same time we've abused because we've done harm to somebody. Whereas if it bounces back to them, they have done it to themselves, and they're going to get hit just as hard as they sent it. So there's the demarcation.
Just so you two know, I was married to a wonderful woman who was a practitioner of the craft. So I'm pretty familiar with a lot of this. I'm right. I would like to bring up something just to get lighter for a second before we get back on the other side here. Some dreams, well, they're okay. I mean, some dreams are even great. I mean, sex, for example. There's worse things that you can wish upon a person in a dream than sex. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Maybe you're going to be tired, but you're going to have a smile on your face. So wake up with a smile on your face, right?
That's right. It's dream sex.
Yeah, dream sex. So if you want to have a sex dream, I would presume that you can bring that on as well beforehand, yes?
Yes, you can. You can program it.
Meaning you could program the intent of your affections, and there she would be in your dream? Is that true?
You could, yes. All you do is
really
drift off. And we do it inadvertently or unintentionally every night. People go, man, I was dreaming about blah, blah, whatever, work, for example. And I'll say, well, what were you thinking about before you fell off to sleep? And they go, well, I was thinking about what I needed to do tomorrow at work. Exactly. You just programmed your dream. Thereby, the same is true if you want a sexual dream. You can visualize before you fall asleep. You can visualize whatever fantasy you have for whatever particular person, and at some point you're going to pick up that thread as you fall asleep and go there, and that's what you bring back with you.
But I would recommend consent.
Yeah, you need consent.
Consent? And now see, you wouldn't think in the astral plane you'd have to have consent. You would think that consent would be like automatic.
Along with the karma.
As above, so below. In other words,
if you don't have consent in the physical, you might go to jail. Well, and that's the karma. Well, same is true.
In the astral, yeah, you go to astral police, put you in astral jail. It's not a nice place, all right?
All right. On that note, we'll be right back. Nicole and Michael, I'm Art Bell, and this is Dark Matter.
And we'll return there tomorrow night for more Dark Matter. So we finish this last fight up, we'll bring day 3 to an end, part 3 to an end. Like, share, and subscribe. Get us to the goal of 50,000 views, 5,000 subscribers. Sorry, 1,000 subscribers. So Boxy over next year sends us those 9 press boxes, and Google YouTube puts us on the map and starts putting us in the algorithm. CoinBase, Ibotta, and Gain.gg, get your goodies from them. And until next time, like, share, and subscribe, be kind to one another, and release the Krakens. As we always march on here from day 1. Program your dreams, have a great night's sleep, and we'll see each other tomorrow as we march along here from day 1. Have a